Bring in my dear friend, Art Laffer, former Reagan economist and Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient and author of the brand new book, Taxes Have Consequences. Arthur, I don't want to talk so much about the oil story and his duplicity on all that. We've got Mike Summers coming on later, and we have Mike Pompeo. But Arthur, I think this loss of confidence, the fact that he is so duplicitous, you see the same thing, you know, the bill last March of 21 was not going to cause inflation. Then inflation came and it was transitory. Then it was 0. Then it was 2%. And now it's getting worse and worse, as you have warned us. You see this in so many areas, Art. You know, you worked for Reagan. You worked for Nixon way back. I mean, you can't do this. The country has lost confidence in the guy. I know they've lost confidence in his policies, but they've lost confidence in him. And I wanted to pick your mind and see what your thoughts were on this.
Well, let me just say, if you look at the polling, the summation of agree or disagree or approve or disapprove, there's a sharp uptick in disapproval without much of a change in approval, which tells me the independents and the don't knows are finally coming and making judgments. And, you know, it's not just their opinions. They are literally making judgments on Biden. It's this break is happening, and I think you're seeing it very clearly, Larry. Just what you described is exactly what's happening. These people are breaking, and they always break just before the elections. You know, that's why it's so hard very far out to forecast what's going to happen. But you're seeing the breaks coming in the election and all the polls, all the numbers. It's an anti-Biden break, and they've lost confidence in him. I never had it in him, but they've lost confidence in him, and everyone else has too.
And so much of it is self-inflicted. I mean, I've never seen a guy lie like this before. The other day, we've got a full screen. The other day, he's licking an ice cream cone someplace in Oregon, telling everybody how great the economy is. So there's a whole spate of news stories. Wall Street Journal economists see a recession. Bloomberg economists see a recession. It's leading CEOs. I think we have a full screen, a whole bunch of famous CEOs. They are not card-carrying Republicans, I might add, if we can put that up on the board. Show who they are. Let me see. I can't hardly see them all. Anyway, whatever they are, it's coming into focus. All these guys, Elon Musk, Amazon, Pichai from Google. Anyway, I can't see them all. But the point is, they're all saying there's a recession. Now, these are not card-carrying conservative Republicans. They're not supply-siders. He's out there saying the economy is great. That is no way to build confidence. That's just no way to do it.
No. And it's untrue. I mean, we've had so many people leave the labor force, the participation rate is way, way, way down. Now, it's true, Larry, the unemployment rate is way down too, but the reason the unemployment rate is way down is because people have left the labor force, and part of those were the unemployed left the labor force. So that's what, it's a very poor economy, and it's not doing well. The markets are telling us it's not doing well. GDP is telling us it's not doing well. All of these numbers are telling us we're in a dramatic slide. And, you know, what you mentioned about the 15 million barrels he's calling from the strategic oil petroleum reserve, those numbers, by the way, he's going to need that strategic petroleum reserve when he comes to the general election in 2024. And it's not going to be there, Larry. He's going to have depleted the whole thing trying to game play this election. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse for him. Once the election's over, I think he's in a rout. I think he's going to be Liz Truss.
Liz Truss. I want to get to Liz Truss in just a minute. Speaking of Liz Truss.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought you'd appreciate that.
I know. It's a good segue. You really should anchor the show. But
Thank you.
I understand that. But go back to the SPRO thing, though. SPRO was put in because of the Arab oil embargo in the 70s. Which was a very bad period of time.
Yep.
And the Arab oil embargo, the immediate one was taken down, but they still kept, lots of oil off the market, so prices were sky high. They were doing it because they were damaging the United States. It was aimed at that, the U.S. and Israel, of course. So we're going to talk to Pompeo later in the show, but this is an example of a short-sighted political decision for a couple of dollars of gasoline prices, which will damage and jeopardize Americans' own national security. And, Art, here's the thing about the confidence. He doesn't seem to care. That's what blows my mind. And if he doesn't care, I'm going to argue that people watching this drama Well, they're just going to say, this guy's out. He's not for America. He's not helping us, and we don't have any confidence in him.
I know, Larry, I'm 82. I'm older than Biden. But, you know, a lot of my friends, when they get to this age, they don't care. It's the end of the team. It's in the end of the term of their lives, and they really don't care. They just want to make it through to the next day. They don't have the vision of the future. Biden does not have a vision of the future. Biden just wants to muddle through and get back home and have some hot chicken soup.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the way it is. He doesn't care. And that's really unfortunate because he is, at his age, I mean, I resemble those remarks myself a little bit from time to time. But when at his age, he personally is old and is reflecting it and actually doesn't care because he's not on his fast game. He's not got a hop on the fastball. And I hope that's not true of me, but I really think it is true of Joe Biden.
Arthur, that is not true of you. Couldn't be further from the truth. You have worked your whole professional life to make this country a better place. You have always done that. And you, by the way, pay attention to facts and empirical evidence, which would be a new living experience for Joe Biden. Anyway, you mentioned Liz Truss.
You know, you just said I'm not an economist. That's just what you've just said. I can't get a job at Harvard or Yale or Princeton.
Well, that may or may not be a good thing, but you're much greater than an economist, much better than an economist ever was, but you are. You should have won a Nobel Prize years ago, and I mean that. Let me go to the Liz Truss story. Difficult as it is. And let me start it out with a little bit of a quote from our conservative friend in Britain, Mr. Nigel Farage. Take a listen.
It'll be decided as a stitch-up by Conservative MPs. I can tell you the result already. It will be a globalist. It will be a Remainer. It will be a big state, high taxer. The Conservative Party, as we have known it in our lifetimes, is now dead.
Well, two things, Art. Look, I think Nigel is right. The Conservative Party is dead right now. Where that leads, I don't know, but it is dead. They look terrible. Britons have lost confidence in the Tories. The other part, though, some people are saying today here in New York, in the U.S., in the markets, that the defeat of supply side, the defeat of Reaganomics in Britain and the victory of Bidenomics is going to be replicated here. Now, I don't see that because I think the cavalry's coming because it wants Reaganomics and free market capitalism. But in England, it's a bad story. There's just no two ways about it.
Well, Larry, how can you have a defeat of supply-side economics if it's not been tried? I mean, it's not even been allowed to come out onto the football field and play. Poor Liz Truss, she got scared, she got terrified, she just panicked and she surrendered. I mean, I can remember some of the races. I mean, Jerry Brown, when he ran for president, loved running for president, but he did not want to be president. He understood the pressure of the job. And Bill Buckley, if you'll remember, was, what's the first thing you'll do if you win the mayorship? And he said, demand a recount.
Yes.
You know, all of these things. And Jack Kemp never ran for higher offices. There are people who really love the campaign, love the battle, but they don't want to actually be in the seat and do the job. And Liz Truss obviously was one of those. Now, there's some others in the Conservative Party who are really clear thinking and very good. I think Nigel is being a little bit too harsh, a little bit too pessimistic. There are a lot of people, backbenchers in the Conservative Party there, who are really, really, really good. I mean, that guy Rishi Sundak is really a good guy, too. He was the one who was parlaying for being prime minister with Liz Truss. Maybe he'll come back. And if he comes back, don't count him out. He's not he's not a wet. He's not a wibbly wobbly. He's a pretty solid guy. So I don't count everything out yet in Britain. Please don't.
All I'll say is this. Brexit was a tremendous victory. I used to call it Magna Carta 2.0.
Huge.
Britain liberated from all the taxing and regulating and spending in the European Union and legal decisions and, you know, taking away the independence of the Brits. But you know what? They have dissipated that. They have not taken advantage of that. That's the British problem. That's the Tory problem. They have not taken advantage. They should have come in, Boris Johnson, cutting taxes, cutting spending, cutting regulations, free trade deal with the United States. Instead, he went the other way, and including his Green New Deal. He practiced Bidenomics, Art, and that's not what he was elected to do. Brexit was supposed to liberate England. Instead, he subjugated England, and they haven't recovered. We'll settle the politics. I don't know that I understand English politics anymore either. But I just think it's a lost opportunity. How's that, Art? A lost opportunity.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, all right, we'll leave it there. Arthur
Terrible
Laffer,
big loss of opportunity, Larry.
Don't you ever say that you, in your experience is so important. You have always worked for this country. I mean that sincerely. You have always worked for this country.
Well, thank you very much, Larry.
We have benefited.
I feel like sort of like Yoda, if you know what I mean.
No, we have benefited from your work all these many years, including most particularly myself. Thank you, buddy.